Hi, this is Susan Ibitz, and if you want to develop great communication skill, you need to be listening to the Art of Communication podcast with my good friend, Greg Rice.
Welcome to the Art of Communication, where entrepreneurs learn to grow their business more effectively through mastering their ability to connect to others. Whether you're looking to increase revenue, widen your network, or just getting others to buy into your vision, we'll help you dramatically transform your business and life by communicating more effectively, improving your leadership skills, and reinvesting time back into your family. You're only one good conversation away from transforming your business and your life, so let's start the conversation with your host, Greg Rice.
Hey guys, today I'm sitting down with Susan Ibitz, the human behavior hacker. And Susan is the founder of the Human Behavior Lab, where she teaches her clients how to understand a person's personality by reading their facial features. She also teaches on reading body language, detecting lies, and a host of other really powerful techniques. She's also a regular contributor to Thrive Global and is a member of the Forbes Coaching Council. Now, as you'll hear, I'm currently taking her classes on facial reading. I tell you, they are simply amazing. I love them, and I'm fascinated by how much you can tell about a person from simply looking at their facial features. And Susan is the best of the best at this, and you're going to get a flavor for that on this interview. We talk about the history of facial reading and why more people don't know about it today, but also how it's currently growing in popularity and the usefulness of it in so many different aspects of our lives. And she actually quizzes me on the spot on a few facial reading techniques. I feel like I did pretty well, but you can be the judge. But along the way, you're going to get some great pointers on how you can better understand facial reading and start to apply it in your own life. So Susan is just incredible, and what she can do is so powerful, and understanding others is critical to communicating effectively. So this interview is a must listen for everybody. Susan, welcome to the Art of Communication podcast.
Hi, Greg. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to chat with you today. I think you've definitely opened up my eyes to a whole nother world of being able to understand others. And I'm excited to share that with my audience here. So
You're one of my best students, and I know a lot of people is going to get offended, but you do your homework. It's amazing how fast and accurate you become so fast. So you definitely have that things that make you pay attention to others, and your report has been pristine. None of your report is wrong. So I read your reports and your 2 levels. So congrats. It's the first time that I get interviewed by a student who can read me. So I kind of like in a different position, because usually I'm the profiler and the other people feel intimidated. But now you know enough to read me. So that again is scoopy.
I think you give me a little too much credit, but I really do appreciate that. Thank you very much. And it's been, we'll talk about it a little bit later, and we'll certainly talk about where folks can find it. But Susan is developing some classes to teach face reading, which is one of the things that we'll talk about, facial reading. So you definitely want to check those out. They've been hugely valuable for me, very digestible, and I've just learned a ton from them. But before we kind of dive into all that, I know that you call yourself a human behavior hacker. I'd love for you to just tell us a bit about what you mean by that.
When I stopped doing political campaign consulting, that was like as best you can hide, and only certain people know you, better you are. Why? Nobody want to know like, oh, you win because you have a profiler working for you. Everybody have it. No lawyer go to a lawsuit without a profiler. No political go out of without having a profiler. Actually, between you and I do know that the guy who worked with Hillary Clinton was fired, and he haven't been able to find works again.
Oh, wow.
He overdid it. He overdid her Botox, her expressions, and most people find her unreal and unrelatable because her body language and micro expression. He did a huge mistake. Anyway, young people, sometimes the devil knows more for being old than being the devil. But when I decide to stop doing political campaign and like, okay, I need to put myself ahead. I have the years of experience. I do have the experience. I know the right people. I've been doing the right job. But coach, when I look for the word coach, I think I found like 130 pages to start with. And and by the way, I'm not a coach. I'm not going to work in one-on-one with you, except that you pay my fee that is really high to work one-on-one with me, because I'm coming from running political campaigns. And for the people who doesn't know, you work for 6 months and you can take 2 years vacation. That's how much the political paying you to make sure they get to whatever seat they want. It's not being cookies. That's how much they pay you, how much you know, and how good you need to be. Mm-hmm. So when it says, okay, I'm done, I'm going to go to civilian life and start training, I think the best way to find out who you are is to talk to the people who's near to your heart and near to your wallet. What I mean, you are defined by the 5 people you confine your secrets and the people who confine your business problems. So I put everybody together on a Zoom call, because they're all over the place, and says, okay, guys, who I am. And they start laughing like, no, really, seriously, who I am. You know me. We have been friends. I have friends who are been in my life since I'm 3 years old. I'm almost 50, so they've been in my life for 45 years, and I call her too. And one of them who work in computers says, well, you're like a human behavior hacker. I'm like, wait a minute, let's stop. Everybody else, tell me what. And everybody start brainstorming and says, wait a minute. Some people hack computers, I hack people's, and everybody love it. And that's how my title come up. 3 or 4 months ago, a journalist did an interview that we recorded in Zoom, and he was testing me, and he put like, Susan Ibitz is the equivalent to a human polygraph, and was really conflicted because a lot of people do not like polygraph. But it was a funny way to say, like, she can find out if you're lying or not. But basically, my title is a human behavior hacker. Some people hack computers. I hack humans, and I love it. I will never going to change it. I don't know if it's trademarked, but I've been using it for so long that it's belonged to me. It's funny because people who says they don't know who I am. I found videos online who says, hey, I'm X and Y. I'm a human behavior hacker. Like, really? Really? You need to steal my intro line. It's not fair.
So how did you end up down this path of profiling and really wanting to understand others?
Do you know anyone who get on the right path and the right way? No. The most interesting stories are when you make so many mistakes that you get to a point that your skin gets thicker enough to be resilient to everything. When you fail so many times that you are not allowed to yourself to fail anymore. And when the failures are the best school that you can have. Long story short, I love Colombo. I still play dumb. I have friends who says, are you really playing so dumb? Like, I get the best information to that, like going to a restaurant, get free drinks. I play dumb. So I love Colombo, and that's why my quality time with my dad. And he always played with us what special or skill or superpower you want to have. One of my brother wanted to be like Superman, Spider-Man. I wanted to be able to read your mind. So when I get to the point to go to high school, to finish high school, then I finish early because my teachers couldn't put out with me. I went to college and like, okay, what are we going to do with you? Like, I don't know. I finished high school. I'm supposed to get college and study and get money and get a life. And like after an hour, 90 minutes with the counselor says, I don't know what I'm going to do with you. Like, what do you mean? Like, you already know things people know in a master or in a PhD, but you don't have any education on that. You're like psychology lawyer all over the place. So he was intelligent enough to ask me, what do you want it to be when you was a kid between 9 and 13 years old? And behavioral-wise, I learned that that's where you are really deciding what is your tendency. Mm-hmm. He says, well, I want to be a superhero. And he's like, can you develop a little more? Like, I want to do this and this. And like, he laughed and says, oh, you want to be a behavioral analysis? You want to be a profiler? My answer was like, wait a minute, I can make money with this. I want it. Just sign me on. So I was studying 3 careers at the same time. I was taking law on the morning, psychology on evenings, and behavior at night. was killing myself. My goal was to have my PhD at the age of 29 so I can get to the age of 34 that the FBI was accepting foreign people to the behavioral unit. 6 months, I was failing in absolutely everything, even in lunch. Even on the lunch break, I was failing on the lunch break. And like, how is possible? So one of my teachers, who I adore him because he gave me the first slap on the neck of reality and says, Susan, we need to talk. Most people in South America call me Bella. That's what the nickname, and it's my second name, Bethlehem, Susan Bethlehem. So most people call me Bella. And says, Bella, we need to talk. Like, how I don't get how you're on top of the class. Everybody want to work on the group with you. You are, by the way, I know that you passing everybody's result on the test, so stop doing that or start charging for it. But all your papers and your tests are below zero. Like, I cannot put a lower grade because it doesn't exist. Is something wrong with your brain? Like, duh, we know that. No, seriously, you need to go to see a counselor. So I went to see my counselor, and after a week, I passed all, because believe it or not, most people think that the EQ test is only one, but actually you have 9 types of intelligence. And I passed all the levels, all intelligent, who had to do with music, art, behavioral-wise, but I didn't pass the test who had to do with math and logical. I inverted all the numbers. And when he find out that, says, your IQ is really high, but we have another problem. So he kept doing tests, and he find out that I'm highly, highly dyslexic. So he says, because your IQ is so high, and you're audit, and you're listening to things and see things, you incorporate information really fast. But when you need to process and put it out there, you cannot translate what your brain's saying to a paper. So basically, you're not going to make it to academia on the goal. Making 3 careers together is going to be impossible. I don't even think you're going to be finishing one by the age of 30. So I would just take the pressure out there and do something else. So I went back home. I get depressed for 6 months, cry, drink, get wasted, and what everybody does when you get depressed when at 18 and don't know what else to do, until my dad says, put everything that they are important in your backpack, go around the world and ask for everybody who you admire to train you. That's what I've been doing for the last 30 years. And that's what happened. I've been trained by everybody that I admire, except 2 people. One of them is still alive, but he had dementia and Alzheimer. Mm-hmm. And initially I wrote to him and he says, I'm going to train you. The day that we were supposed to get on the training, he didn't know who I was. Mm-hmm. So I need to let it go. And the other one died in 2011, and I wasn't emotionally or intellectually ready to study with him before that, and I lose the chance. But beside those 2, I study with everybody that I want to study with.
Wow. So how did you approach those folks, especially the first couple folks when you started down that path?
One of my teachers, I stalk all of my teachers. One of them, Lena Sisko, I stalked her for 2 years. And it says, I want to learn by you. She's a former military intelligence person that she was an interrogator in Guantanamo. And I wrote to her like, Lena, I saw your podcast, your TED Talk, read your book. I know by memory. You can ask me any article, any chapter. I know it by memory. I want to study with you. And she says, well, I only train military intelligence. And when she finally have class to teach to civilians, she called me, and I was one of her first student to be civilian. Another teacher that I cannot name because he asked me not to name him, I was sitting in front of his house with a sign says, I want to study with you.
Really? Wow.
Every day from 8:45 to 9 a.m., I stand when I knew he was taking the kids to school. I was silent inside.
Wow.
I'm not a threat. I want to study with you. I would do everything needed to have the luxury. And I was standing. I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't crash on the path. He called the police 2 times, and the police says, like, she's not doing anything, actually. So after I think it was 7 months, he's like, what the
Wow.
heck is wrong with you? Like, I want to study with you. Like, why? Because you're the best in this. Says, you don't have anything else to do. Like, I'm serving tables at 5 p.m. So I have all my day free to study with you. So until you don't say yes, I'm going to still standing with you with the sign. I was 21, was young and crazy. I don't know if I would do that same today.
Like courageous, for seriously.
You know what? You don't get where you want to go, like asking for permission and saying sorry.
True.
So he finally, after 7 months, says, I only going to give you the chance because I never met anybody so persistent. Like, I need to check in my clock. I know what is 8:45 and I need to take my kids to school because you are in front of my house with the sign. So this person took me, I studied 3 years with this person. After that, I went to Manchester to study with Paul Ekman International face reading. Micro expression. And that's the way I was studying with everyone. And one of the hard cookies was Aminon Sapir. He came from the military intelligence in Israel in 1987, and he was the one who developed how to determine if somebody's lying by statement analysis, like to reading what you're doing and anonymous letters. And I applied to study with him a couple of times until like he get an interview with me on the phone. Like, I usually the only civilians that I train is people who work in insurance. Why you want to learn with me? Because you are the father of the beast. Mm-hmm. You want to talk to Frankenstein or the doctor who created? I want to talk to the doctor to create it. All the other people teaching are learned by you and have half of the information. So I want to study by you. So he accepted me on the class, and the first day of the class, he gave me a 32 pages and says, it's only one word telling you the guy is guilty. So I'm telling you he's guilty, but you need to find that word. Wow. And like, holy cow, really 5 years waiting to study with you and you're going to draw me out the first day? So I went back to the hotel that was in Indianapolis. And we have the train passing. We can hear the train. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
Forest.
You heard my dog a bit ago.
Yeah, it's happened real life. I studied with him. And like, I read that thing like 17 times and like I was overthinking. I says, you know what? I pack all my things and like, okay, done. You need to know how to pick your fights. I need to quit. And I couldn't sleep. So 4 o'clock in the morning, I wake up. I went to find the first place, and in the place, the rural place that we were, because it was a police station training, so you don't have a lot. Grab a coffee. I sit on the car on the training center and says, okay, Susan, you have been sitting in the rain holding a sign. I wanted to be trained by you. Are you really going to give up? So I decided to start reading the same articles behind to the front and mark everything that says we, I, you, etc. So in one point I find one word. I'm like, wait a minute, this word doesn't match. So I read the paragraph like, whoa, this word doesn't match. So I look for the same word in other pages. So like, got it. I went to the class, sit in front of him. Nobody wanted to sit in front of him. Everybody's afraid. Everybody was on the back line. I was sitting in front of him, first line, waiting for it, my turn. Waited. Everybody talk. And he made me talk last. He says, Susan, what is your opinion? Page X and Y, this word, but you trick us because the same word is in this page, and repeat 5 times. And I shut up. And he looked at me like, everybody else should be ashamed. She got it. You didn't got it. Congratulations. After 5 days to study with him, I says, sir, it would be my honor and my pleasure if you can be mentoring me and helping me to become better. And like, okay, I'm going to think about it. We have been friends for a long, long time. I'm one of the few people who have his cell phone, and I have a WhatsApp. Actually, today I talked to him to see how he's doing. He's in Arizona, and I still talk to him. And some people is like, read about him on a book. I have the luxury to be friends with him because when you show respect, when you show dedication, and when you show that you deserve their time, it's really difficult that people say no. And everybody that I stalk, I was persistent but gentle. And I always offer something in exchange. And all my teachers today are my friends. I study hostel negotiator with Mark Lofer. Like, that dude is like above like Trump and Obama. Like, that is like hardcore trainer. I studied with Jack Cambria. Actually, Mark Lofer and Jack Cambria both gave me my diploma when I did level 3 of hostel negotiator as a civilian. And I ended up certified as a international hostel negotiator. So I hope I never get on a plane in the middle of the China. Somebody take the plane because I'm supposed to be qualified to work there. But again, it was like friendly, not threatened, following up and ask, please, and learning about them and like, hey, I would like to learn about you with you just because, no, I was following them. I have Google search, and every time they do that podcast, I was listening to the podcast. I was commenting on the podcast and like, hey, I love your comment about X and Y. I was showing them that not only I was following their work, I was following whatever they did after the reason why I want to study with them. And again, it's only 2 people. One of them have Alzheimer, and I really pissed off because when you talk to him, he's like on top of that. Next day, he doesn't remember he talked to you.
Yeah. Wow. So it's an amazing story just of how you were able to develop those relationships and kind of get yourself trained in the areas that you were really passionate about. I think that's really inspiring for a lot of folks.
You know what? The good news is happening outside United States because I would be incarcerated on a Looney Tune if people would see me doing that in United States. I think it was crazy. That's how desperate to get where the point that I am today I was. I don't think it's normal. Somebody telling me the word do that, like, honey, start taking Valium and I can give a therapist.
Well, so to shift topics a bit, I do want to talk about some of the specific areas that you specialize in. One of them being facial reading and facial analysis. So start by just giving us a little bit of background on kind of what that is, because it was new to me. I'm not sure how many folks are aware of it as a thing.
First of all, we're going to start with the dark side, why most people do not know about it. Face reading, the first time there was established a first study or known is 5,000 years ago. The Chinese developed face reading because men weren't allowed to touch women. And if you're a doctor and you have a female who is sick, how you approach them. So they found out that moles, decoloration, and differences in your face have a correlation to different organs. The same way when if you're going to Asia and somebody do a massage in the plant of your feet and says, ooh, your liver is inflamed, like, how you know? I've been taking meds, like, oh, because this bump on the bottom of your feet. So the same way it can reflect in your face. So they found out that you can certain personality trait about that. When you start going to study, you find out that Korean, the Japanese, actually, I think Korea is the only one who have a physiognomies association, a face reading association. I was supposed to go at the end of the year to shadow for 3 months a Chinese face reader, but due to this pandemic, my visa was canceled and my heart was broken because because I do the Western part. So you can find it on the Judaism, on the Kabbalah, on the part of the Zohar. You can find face reading and palm reading. I don't do palm reading. You can find it in certain cultures in Latin America. You can find it in certain hieroglyphics on the Egyptians. So it's crazy and funny at the same time that cultures who never get any way to cross path, they study the same. Mm-hmm. So when people says this is voodoo, that is not scientific, this is like playing roulette, and like, why do you think something for 5,000 years has been studied and is still exists? In the 1600s, if I'm not mistaken, was taught on the European universities as a way to communicate with others. What happened? Full disclosure. The Nazis uses to determine the superior area population. So most people think that personality or face reading is something bad. And what I would say with someone is like, if you see colors and you see races, you have a problem. I see features, I see lines, I see things in your face that allow me to communicate with you. And if you're going to go back, the same way the atomic bomb was invented basically from the idea to generate energy, not to get atomic bomb, the same way that most things were created or discovered with a good way, you're going to have people who use it on the wrong way. So it has nothing to do with physiognomy. It's how you apply it. The same way that cooking, Myers-Briggs, driving a car. And I always give the same example. I know people are going to get boring, but I think it's a really good example. If I sell you a car and you choose to drink and drive, is the car fault or you lose your marbles and decide to drink and drive? So physiognomy is a beautiful, amazing tool to improve communication on partners, on business and sales reps and lawyers and everything who can be used. Why? Because allow me to know what you need, how I need to communicate with you, know what I need or the way I need to talk to you. So that's what physiognomy to me is fascinating. The point is, most people don't talk about physiognomy because I think that we're like 17 or 18 people around the world doing physiognomy.
Oh, that's it.
Which is, I'm sorry?
I said that's it, just 17 to 18 people around the whole world.
Professionally. You have a lot of people who use it, who study, and they don't say anything about it. But 17, most of them are using it for diagnostic to the oriental part of physiognomy. The ones who we do the Western part is one of my teachers who was a lawyer, and the reason he studied physiognomy is because he win more cases reading people's faces than anything else. The other person is retired. My first teacher is retired. My second teacher is retired. And that kind of put me on the top of the food chain. It's another person on Ireland who does both, but he decided to incline himself to do more the oriental part of physiognomy. And the other two people, I cannot name them because they're actually working in political campaigns in Washington. And I know them really well. One of them studied with me and the other one we exchanged notes. But again, I know it's going to sound horrible, but it's a TIF law that you don't name who doesn't want to be named, the same way nobody named me during a lot of years.
Sure.
But the reason is it's so powerful. It's so complex that people don't want to say it about it. Happened with microexpression. The first one who find out about the first 6 microexpression, the number 7 was discovered 40 years ago, is Darwin in 1972, 1975. So we're talking about 150 years. But until Ekman took it on 1960s and 70s, microexpression was a voodoo doll that most people do not pay attention. Body language, the first book of body language is from the 1500s. But until Emmy Cuddy and other people took it like only 10 to 20 years ago, again, it was voodoo. Now, face reading, it's coming and it's coming stronger, for the most ridiculous way, who I don't care if people start knowing. The Indian matchmaker in the second episode, she go to a face reader because she couldn't figure out what the guy want. Since we have a face mask society, people is freaking out. So they're looking for what are the ways that I can know what is going on with you. And like, you have studied with me, you know face reading. The most important things in your face are not covered by the mask. I can do a 25 pages report for the things that are not covered in the mask. And on top of that, the 7 microexpression, and I say 6 before is because contempt that happened in half of your face was found out by Ekman that is universal too. You can read it on the eyebrows. So I don't need to see the rest of your face. I can see your eyes, I can see your eyelids, and I can see your eyebrows and the wrinkles in your forehead. Even though you have Botox, I can see the 7 microexpression and I can read your face. And I think that due to the pandemic, I found articles on the New York Times, LA Times, and a lot of magazines, even in Cosmopolitan, talking about face reading now. Like, how are we going to conquer 2 years of mass society? Like, well, let me tell you, face reading. So slowly it's getting out there for a need. No, because people who doesn't wanted to put it publicly. I think I'm the one who more publicly talking about face reading, even though I had been attacked like I was the Antichrist. I don't care. I know it's true and I know it's working.
Interesting. Curious who's been attacking, or what the attacks have been about that folks are still so anti to this idea.
Oh, I've been called a witch for a fair on the California beach. They told me that is the same to flipping a coin. There are misleading people. I've been taught a liar. I've been taught a witch. I've been taught a clairvoyant and not a face reader. And the only person, and I asked them, why you call me clairvoyant? Because it's impossible. You know so much about me. Instead that, oh, you're talking about my therapy or you're clairvoyant. Like, what if I tell you that know all of those things? Like, you lost a kid and not too long ago and you're still grieving because I read your face. Like, it's impossible. You know, that was a private message. I didn't put that on openly on LinkedIn. I get a PM privately and says, like, I can understand how angry you are with life because losing a kid must be really difficult. And says, how you know that about me? Because your grieving lines, those lines who cross the lips in that way only happen when you lose a kid. There's no another way that can happen. And like, yeah. And he never replied to me again. Wow. I think he was kind of afraid of me. But yeah, I think that, and I know I'm probably going to have a lot of enemies saying this, but I think ignorance is not to not know something or someone. Is not to says, okay, because it's different, because I didn't know before, doesn't mean that it's not working. Let's give it a try. Let's see. And another thing is you need to be really careful who you study with. I've been doing this, I love to call it witchcraft because it's like I think my dark sense of humor, like I've been called a witch, so I call it witchcraft to be careful. Maybe a witch, so don't get on me. For 20 years, and I know what I'm doing, but some people is taking one class for 4 days and they call themselves face readers. And I've been tested. You can go on Google. I've been put it on the spot. I have done live shows on YouTube and LinkedIn where people is sending pictures and I never know them before the picture were submitted. And like, holy cow, you know me more than my best friend. So test the person who you has been studied with. So if you don't know about it, if it's something different to you, you have all the right on the world to believe it, but give it a try. When a couple of years ago, they tell us women on menopause, they need to take a lot of hormones. It was proved that caused cancer. We didn't know the kale was such a good vitamin. We didn't know the certain things that we never knew, and certain traditions were using it as improve as good. Today's science prove us that can save us or can improve our life. Yeah. So if you want to know about face reading or physiognomy, use it as a way to improve your life. What about if you say it in your podcast, I was able to know how the person need to be addressed even before I met that person by a picture on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. So what about if I can understand this is not personal? You're not trying to drive me crazy. You process information and intake information in a different way. I don't have to fight with you. I need to find a way to communicate with you. Life would be so easy.
But first, have you guys ever struggled to gain traction driving paid traffic while it seems like your competitors are just having a lot more success? If so, then you're going to love what I put together for you. I mean, how about a free analysis of you versus your top 3 competitors to gain clarity around what is really working and what isn't and where the opportunities are? Does that sound good? Well, I've partnered with some of the best in the paid traffic business to create inflection marketing. I only partner with the best. No one has more experience. These guys have been doing it since 2001, and they've been helping companies win paid traffic across all channels, including Google, Microsoft and Facebook, Instagram and YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Amazon. And here's the best part. For anyone who sets up a consultation appointment, we'll provide you with a free competitive analysis comparing your paid per click advertising versus your competitors, looking at things like messaging, keywords, volume, and cost per click. And there's no obligation for this. It'll give you the foundation that you need to succeed, whether you decide to work with us or not. So to learn more about how we can help you take your digital marketing game to the next level and drive a true inflection in your paid traffic, as well as get your complimentary competitive analysis, go to gregjrice.com/inflection. That's gregjrice.com/inflection to schedule a quick discussion to see if there may be a fit here or not. So with that, let's dive into our interview. Couldn't agree more. So can you give us a few basics, I guess, for the layperson?
Okay, I'm going to do it. Oh, okay. We didn't have this plan, but I'm going to do that. You can give me the basics.
Well,
you are one of my more advanced students, so you give me the basic. Okay, I want to know how you intake information. What is the difference between big ears and small ears? Can you do it? Come on. You can
I can do some of these. Maybe not all memorized off the top of my head, but I can certainly do that one. So I can do that one.
What about if you send the basic and I fall on the rest of the information that for lack of practice, since you are a new student, you can go, let's do that.
I absolutely love it. So, thinking about the ears and processing information, right? There's a couple things to look at. One, how big are the ears? Right? If there's big ears, then it's more likely that they're auditory. So they like to hear messages, right? They like to hear the words, things described in words. They like to talk in audible type of language, right? So, hey, I hear what you're saying, things like that.
100% right.
Smaller ears, they're either visual or kinesthetic, right? So they like to see things visually, or they like to really feel the situation that's happening. And I think we're all familiar with those personality types, but I've always found it very hard to read those on the fly when talking to somebody for the first time. And this gives me a way to get a kind of a leg up on understanding the personality prior to meeting them, which has been so powerful. The other thing about ears and processing speed, if they're lower, they're slower, right? Like we were talking about before. So they just tend to process things a little bit more slowly. They take their time. It's not that they're not as smart. They're just more methodical in the way that they're thinking about things. If the ears are higher, they're going to process much faster, and they're going to be making kind of quick decisions and coming at you very quickly, right? So those would be the two things I'd say about the ears.
I don't have anything to add. That's what I'm telling you. And again, you took a class online, wasn't even in person. You was one of the ones who asked, like, when you going to do the training? Because I want to start training this, like, give me until January, then I feel all the levels. But do you see how much you need to know about a person that they're visual and they take time to process information, on their auditory, on they need consistency, they're going to be listened to you. I have meetings where I have people like, X and Y wasn't paying attention. Like, nope. Actually, if the only person I need to recall something on the meeting, I want to call that person. Why? Because that person was lowering the head and was putting the hands on the forehead. Why? Because they were holding the head with all the information you take. And the body language telling me when you're holding your forehead has to do with the thinking. So depending where you put in your hands has to do with the thinking. So if I put in my fingers on my forehead in a process of thinking, is because that's the part of the brain who is working. Now, if I cover in my face with the hands, that is shame. It's not under the same micro expressions, but one of the good things to have been raised born and raised in Latin America, educated in Europe, and living in the United States, is that I have a multicultural life around to experience. So I found that the most shames happen to cover things that you feel ashamed of. Like when somebody's sorry and they put the hands on the chest, it's because they feel ashamed, they're sorry from the bottom of the heart. When they put it on the throat, on the mouth, it's like, I shouldn't have said that. And when they put it covering their eyes, it's because they're ashamed of what they said. But when somebody lower the head and put the hands on the forehead, they're thinking and listening and processing the information. In the middle of the meeting, you think that person can have big ears. As soon as the meeting finishes, can you give me a bullet point of what happened on the meeting? Even going to tell you who burped or changed the breathing pace. So that's my people in a meeting. When sometimes I'm really fast taking notes and looking like, okay, we need to meet again. Why? Because I need you to tell me what I missed. Like, how you know that I remember? Because you have big ears. You have big, low ears. So you didn't rush on getting the information, so you didn't miss the things that I missed. Come with me. So, and I like you have high ears, so you remember fast process. Come with me. And I put together a team like, okay, you tell me this, tell me this, tell me this. Okay, thank you. Now I have my notes. And people are like, how you knew that happening? Because of the ears. How? Because ears are antennas, and your antennas is how you take information. Your eyebrows are the intel on your computer.
So tell us a little bit more about the eyebrows.
You know eyebrows, and you have been really good with eyebrows. Really? No.
I could share a little bit about eyebrows.
Okay, I'm gonna say something. One of the most proudest moment on a person who is mentally healthy and secure in their own skin is when your students can become your teachers. Mm-hmm. So for anybody who teach whatever craft you teach, you feel bad or ashamed or afraid that your students can tell you something that you don't know, I would say you need to change careers. So I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of your accomplishment. So let's put it this. I'm doing the interview. This is your show. Come on.
That's great. Yeah. So from an eyebrow perspective, right, there's a number of things to look at. And I might not, without anything in front of me, I might not remember exactly all the categorizations. But one thing to look for is the shape of the eyebrow, right? So if the eyebrows are rounded, that means that they're more of a people person, right? So they like stories about people. They like connecting with people. They understand people. They'll choose a story about a people over data any day of the week. If they're angled, then they like to be in control, right? They like to feel in control. So you should, and your eyebrows are somewhat angled. Mine are more curved, right? Exactly, yeah.
It's like a triangle, horrible, completely control freak.
And then if they're straight, then they're more about the data, right? Those are the folks who want to see the data. They're less interested in kind of the stories. And it's not that they're less personable, right? But they're more analytical, I think, in nature.
Again, perfect. Nothing to correct. The only what I would think to add, not to correct, to add, is I found out the people who have round eyebrows, and I'm still in the process to researching, like the study that we're doing now, because believe it or not, I rent like little booths on different fairs, and I put free face reading, and I read faces for free, still on the weekends, to learn new features. Again, you breathe, and it's going to happen to you. Wait for it, Greg. Wait for it. You're going to become addicted to this, and you kind of still start doing it. That people who have round eyebrows, they're people who are conscious about the environment, plants, and animals. You're going to find people with round eyebrows who either or have pet or had pets before, or collaborate on a shelter, or donate money to the shelter. They tend to have plants, and they're more conscious about the environment, and tend to be the people who remember everybody's birthday on the office. They know everything who happened. So if you're missing any gossip, or you want to know what is going on in the office, go to the round eyebrows. When I pick my accountant, I says, can we have a video call? Like, why? I need to see your eyebrows. Mine have straight eyebrows. He have straight eyebrows and have low ears. Why? I don't want you to be rushing on the information. I want you to go through all the numbers. One thing is to be fast, do it now, and another thing is do it right. So I want you to do my numbers right, but I need facts and data. And another thing, when people have straight eyebrows, never ever talk more than 5 points. Humans tend to like trilogies, like 3 movies, except Star Wars. Lord of the Rings have more than 3. I don't remember.
It depends on if you count The Hobbit.
Yeah. So not one of my biggest strong suit, but if you look for people, they tend to put 3 things in a corner as a decoration. You're never going to see, you see 1, 3, or 5. You're not going to see 2 or 4. You're going to tend to see. So people with straight eyebrows, don't tell them one option because it's like you make the decision from them. 2, you have 2 brains. So I have a conflict. It's called a marketing decoy effect. You need to give me 3 options because I have a rational brain and I have an emotional brain. So I need a third option to disrupt and make a decision. The maximum you can give to a person with the straight eyebrows is 5 options. More than 5, you lose it. And the pointy eyebrows, one of the things is they tend to be managers. And another thing is always be careful when you're talking with someone who have pointy eyebrows because they have done the homework. They play dumb, but they probably know more about the product or the things that you're going to talk better than you are. They Google you, the company, and the product. They Google all the reviews and know everything about you. For example, I'm doing an interview with you and I have 2 monitors. I have all the information of you on the other monitor and talking to you. Why? Because I prepare. I cancel everything half an hour before we talk. I review all your podcasts. I found out that you did one of the best testimonials that I have because I review all your podcasts. I went through all your podcasts during the weekend to know what is the standard level of communication, to know if it's podcast or it's a video too. So pointy eyebrows wanted to be in control and they want to be right because they have done the homework. And when a pointy eyebrows is fighting you, be careful how you fight him back because they don't want to prove you wrong. They want to know why they were wrong. So you're going to hear me in a lot of podcasts saying like, if I am wrong and I have this, please let me know. I did a podcast with Eric Huntley and I get one date wrong. So we did a second podcast when we did live reading and I stop in the middle of the podcast and says, I need to say that I have this date wrong. It was in 2011 and was 2009. And he started laughing like, why you care? Because I did it wrong. I have a fact wrong. It's inadmissible. And he started laughing and people start commenting like nobody realized, but I do not know that I was wrong. So I start posting when he posted the podcast, like, I'm so sorry. It was 2009. I made a mistake. Nobody replied, but I knew I was wrong and was unacceptable. So those are things adding on top that it come into a more progressive level that it has to do with train the trainers, not the basic.
Yeah, no, that's great stuff. And we're only really scratching the tip of the iceberg here. There's just, I mean, I've only done 2 classes. There's so much more that I've learned. And I know that there's just a ton more on top of that coming. And so it's just a fascinating space. I do recommend if anybody's interested in it, check out the website, check out the classes. It's really great stuff. But
and by the way, because I have all those wrinkles in the top of your forehead, you have Einstein lines, meaning that maybe you don't have a paper PhD, but you're really curious about everything. And you are an agnostic by nature. You don't believe in things only because people tell you that happen. If they need to prove you the right. So having a student like you believe in what I do, it's an honor to a student like me because you are the classic agnostic. You don't believe in religion because nobody proved you scientifically done. So I don't see proof. I don't believe for it. So I don't go for it. So those are the things that I know. You see the pointy wrinkles that you have in top of your eyebrows? Like you don't have pointy eyebrows, but you have pointy wrinkles and you have, like, go wrinkles. You have one, oh God, my Lord. Yeah, you don't believe in a doctor if I don't show, doesn't show you. When a doctor says you need to take antibiotics, you're going to say, why? Explain me why this and not this one. How this is processed. Like, yeah.
Fascinating stuff. But
You didn't say yes or no. Is yes?
Some of it is yes. It's yes to a degree. I am religious to a degree. So but I do ask a lot of questions, and I do like to understand why things are the way that they are, right? Or why somebody's asking what they're asking, or why they're thinking what they're thinking, right? That I really
it's amazing because you're the kind of person, if you have the right person in front of you, you're going to help others to grow. Because when you do the right questions, and if the person in front of you is intelligent enough and they don't have the answer, they need to go to look for the answer and get them back to you. You are the only student that I have. Most of them doing privately, like, hey, I just finished the class. This is my report. And like, holy cow, you really did it. And because you want to question yourself, you want to improve yourself, you want to become better. Most people wouldn't be afraid. Why? Because you want the answer, you want the right answers. So I don't see any problem with that feature in your face. Actually, the problem is going to be with the charlatans who cannot prove what they're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just one interesting note there. I've always been kind of an independent politically, not to get into political matters, but I've always said, how can I know that I agree with either party 100% all the time, right? It's about the issue and figuring out what the right answer is for the issue, right? I can't just take your word for it on the right or your word for it on the left. So it kind of rings true from that perspective, I think.
Definitely. I work in politics for a long time. You're never going to see me register in any of the two, neither Democrat Republicans, because since I know from inside, like I have a conflict to vote anytime. So yeah, I can read politics in a different way.
So we're going to wrap up here in a second. I definitely appreciate the time, but just a couple questions I'd like to ask everybody who I have on the show.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I deviate your podcast. I'm sorry about
this
bad guess.
This was great. It was absolutely where I wanted to go. So we covered a lot of the things that I wanted to cover. We might do another show down the road because there's lots of other topics that you mentioned before, like forensic analysis.
And by the way, have three more levels to do on face reading. So we're going to have a lot to cover on.
There's a lot to cover there. I want to learn about forensic analysis and statement analysis and all those things too. So a lot to learn, a lot to share with the audience down the road. But a couple questions I'd like to ask everybody. The first one is around the power of conversations, right? I think conversations can have a really meaningful impact on your life. And I always like to ask my guests if there's one conversation they can point to that had a really meaningful impact on the direction that they ended up taking.
Ask why. Being really serious. I always talk to the 80-20. And one of the reasons I'm so talkative and people don't believe that I'm an introvert is because A, I'm talking about something that I know that is my profession. B, I'm really passionate about what I do. It's my life, my breathing. I choose to have a career instead to a private life, and I never, ever regret it. And that when on my work mood, this is more like colloquial. I already know you, you're my student, so this is more friendly. But when in a professional setting, people says, why you're not talking? Because I have nothing to say. 80-20, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And one of the things that with people with big ears, then I learned from is that we have 2 ears and a mouth. Mm-hmm. Every good conversation happens with 80% of the time you ask people what they want and what they need. And why I say that? I need air, I need food, and I need a roof. What I want is to become better than what I do. So it's different. It's not the same to be what you need and what you want. Need is things that you need to survive. One is what are desires. So in order to find out that, you can establish better relationships and you can establish better sales reps and better partnerships. So I would say that ask why, how. There's a difference between closed-ended question and open-ended question. If I says, Greg, do you like the mountains? What is your answer?
Yes.
What do you like about the mountains so much?
Yeah, so they're beautiful, and I like to hike and enjoy being out in the wilderness and the peacefulness and all those things.
So now I know more about you.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I didn't ask only a question that is a closing question, a closing deal.
Mm-hmm.
Now we start making questions. I start a podcast and talking about with women on sales. And the first question is like, we're in a bar, we're just having a informal conversation. My drink would be Malbec. What will be your drink? I'm like, but I mean, we're recording. Like, yeah, we're recording. Tell me, what is your drink? Like, well, I would explore any drink who has to do with tequila. So you're an explorer. You're an adventurer. Like, how you know that? Like, because I know what I'm going to be drinking since I'm 18. I'm 50. So I'm a domesticated cat. But you like to be adventure and change all the time. And that's where we start the conversation. Like, holy cow, I didn't know that you can know so much about just asking me what drink I would choose would be if we are recording this in a bar and we met for the first time. So those are the questions that you need to start asking. It's important what you have to say, but it's important that what kind of relationship you need to establish. Even though you need to sell something, you need to know why you need to be selling, and you don't know if you don't ask the right questions. Mm-hmm. So it's your kids is like, I'm going to give an example because you have 5. You're like amazing. I'm going to make a monument of you. I have 2 cats and I don't know how to match that. For example, one of your kids came home, and this is from the Houston Carnicero book. It's not my example. I take it from 2 CIA agents, and I love that book. It's like, son, he was an FBI, a CIA interrogator. Look like how your kids can manipulate in you. Do you have any homework? I have a substitute teacher. And 15 minutes later, he went to the kitchen like, wait a minute, my 16 years old just play me? So he went back to the room and says, your substitute teacher give you any homework? Like, yeah, actually more than my regular teacher. And because we assume the substitutes, they don't want to work and they don't give you homework, he assumed on the first 15 minutes, nothing happened. Mm-hmm. So like, did you do your homework? Like, no. So stop playing games and go to work on your homework. So what happened there? We assume because we fill on the gaps with our own experience, what other people is telling us. Everybody have their own dictionary. And remember what I told in the beginning about the laxity pill that I put in my post? Mm-hmm. Because I only want to talk with people, then we can have the same dictionary. I choose my business before I choose my customers. I prefer to work with 100 followers than 1,000 likes. Why? Because in order to think outside the box, you need to have a special mindset. That is like, okay, we don't need to fill the gap. We need to understand the dictionary. We need to ask more. People don't lie to you. We don't do the right questions. And that is one of the primary things that I learned from being trained by military interrogators. The problem is you pay too much attention to the body, and what is important is the mouth. If the mouth is open, you get an info. You're so worried about what is going to be the next question that you just lost that person just confessed to you and you didn't pay attention. That's the reason when I do sales training, the first 45 minutes, I make you go through one of the best interrogation for me done on the history and confession on video. And people says, why we need to see a person confessing being a serial killer? Because if that man make a person confess being a serial killer and going for life to jail, why you cannot get information with your customer, why you cannot have a good relationship with your family, kids, and partner. So maybe something to learn. So shut up and listen, because that man is giving you the best lesson in life you're going to have.
Yeah, I'd love to see that video.
Oh, I'm going to say, it's Jimmy Smith. You can Google it. The complete interview is 3 hours, 50 minutes. He's from the Ottawa Police Department. And actually, I found out that I'm not the only one using that video for training. So Jimmy Smith, I know it's a general, and he make a colonel or Navy, I don't remember, confess that he was a serial killer. It's in YouTube. You can Google it. You don't need to take a class from me to take it. And he was leading, actually, the colonel went by themselves to the police station, and he agreed to be interviewed on a Sunday at 3 p.m. And at one point, Jimmy Smith is like affirming certain way that I got to the point, and he says like, this is the map. Tell me where you have buried the bodies. And the colonel start pointing on the map. And like, the first time I saw this interview, like, what the? Oh my God, he just confessed. And it's recorded and it's in YouTube. I love it. And says, the things happen is why you did it. And he couldn't answer. But they found all the bodies and they give closing to the families because he made it confess. So it's not the dirty or dark side. It's like, if you know how to make questions, if you know how to do the right questions, if you know how to listen between lines, you're going to have everything that you want in life. I always says, I put a show and I try to be funny, but it's a deeper thing here that the basic is the communication is an art. And is the art to try to communicate better with others. So face reading, statement analysis, forensic analysis, watching what other people does and learn from them is helping you become a better human being, a better friend, and sometimes just a better parent when like, honey, you smell like weed. So if I accusing you, like, okay, you know what? Do you know that when I was 16, I smoked weed and I get in a lot of trouble? So my dad never talked to me about that. You want to talk about something? You smell like weed. You want to talk about what is your experience? Let me help you to not to make the same mistake. That would be an amazing approach. Like,
Yeah.
You go into your room, you don't have a cell phone for 2 weeks. He's never going to talk to you. So we tend to react and tend to instead to act with our partner. Is coming late. You accuse him before even asking what happened. Maybe punch a tire. Maybe just have low pressure and fall. It was all night on the hospital. Let the other person talk and then start asking questions to determine what is right or wrong. But if we open a conversation when you feel emotionally safe to talk to me, that's where the good, great interrogators has done for all the history. It's like, no, oh yeah, you wrinkle your nose, you're guilty, book it then. Or like, no, real life doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it takes days to make somebody confess. So let's use that to establish a better relationship, not to pointing fingers. Oh, you have pointy eyebrows, you're a bossy person. Like, no, probably I need to go to you when I know all the research about there. So let's use it in your favor, not against you.
Yeah. Great stuff. Great stuff. So second question, and this is one I don't always ask anybody, but I definitely want to ask you. When you first meet somebody, right, what are you looking at? Like, what's the first thing that you notice about folks?
The first thing that I try is like put in a shield. Like, okay, I don't know who you are. I'm going to give you the chance to unveil as much as you want to. That was one of the most difficult things that I needed to learn doing this. And it's going to happen to you, Greg, and it's going to happen to everybody who reads faces. Like, every person is like an under microscope mouse that you like, oh my God, you have something that I never saw before. I need to ask you. So what I tried, the only things that I do try to see is 3 points. The size of the eyes, the ears, to know if you're visual or audit. So I know how I need to talk to you and how I need to pace my voice for you to understand if I need to use my hands to quantify or I need to show you what I'm talking about. The shape of the eyebrows to know if I need to tell a story, bullet point, or I need to show you academic things. When I do a keynote speaking, says, raise your hands you are here because you need to, but you don't believe in my BS. Okay, come on the front. I'm going to show you what is the BS. And most of them, 95% of them have pointy eyebrows. So, and another one, is the proxemic. We didn't talk about proxemic. Proxemic is the distance between the eyelids and the eyebrows, and it has nothing to do with COVID. It has to do with how much you allow me to get in your life. So if you're a person who have low proxemic, you're really friendly. But if I let you go without closing whatever I need to do, it's not going to happen. If you have high proxemic, because you look distance doesn't mean that you're not going to come back in 3 days and tell me the contract is signed, is get done. Those are the three things. Beside that, as soon as I read that you can read it in a video, on a picture or whatever, I try to put a shield and let people unveil, because it's not they're going to lie, they're lying to you. They're not ready to share the information with you. So one of the better gifts is to know it, but allow other person to slowly telling you when they're ready. It's a difference between deception and lying. And give me time. Deception is when I want to lead you to the wrong place so you're not looking here. Lying is when I modify the reality, and I need time is like I just knowing you, and you ask me a question and it says no and maybe it's yes. It's just because I'm not ready to share that information with you. So we need to be really careful when we just start learning what are the difference. If I'm going to see Robert De Niro playing a boxer, he's not lying to me. I know he's not a boxer. He's being paid to portray a boxer, but he's really a good actor, so I can see what he's doing. But my point is, sometimes people need more time that you can read it by proxemic and low ears, that they need more time. Sometimes some people is going to kiss you on the first date, and some people is going to take like 5 days to kiss you or even grab your hand. It's not they don't like you. It's not they don't care about you. It's they need a different timing. So knowing how people are respected to that, allowing you to have a better conversation. So myself, I'm still almost 50 and learning to like, hey, Susan, shut up. You're not a profiler. You're just meeting somebody new, and let that person unveil and surprise you. Because what happened with this is you get really bored with people really fast. Why? Because you're just waiting for them to open their mouth to confirm your profile, not to let them unveil. So what happened with people that work and while we work is like, how the hell you get married? Like, because I married somebody who does the same things I do, military, interrogators. So you talk about the same things. And we know each other, so we don't do questions and we respect the silence. But for most of the civilians who take these classes, it's like, oh my God, I'm getting depressed. And says, why? Because I just talk to people to confirm what I already profiled them. What am I going to do? Like, well, you need to learn to put a shield and not to use people to confirm your profile, is letting other people unveil to you at the time you want. That is what the Pandora box has to do with learning to be a profiler. You don't have any more surprise because you already know everything about the other person.
Yeah, you got to be able to shut it down to enjoy something. It's fascinating. Or
I can't
put the shield down. How about that? You don't shut it down. You just put the shield down. So
no, it didn't happening for me. So that's the reason I'm living on the countryside. You try, you starting, so you still have time to be save yourself. Save yourself.
This is a great advertisement for your classes. Let me tell you that.
Which one? Save yourself.
So last question for you. Who's the best communicator that you know, either know of or know personally, either way, or, maybe not even live, but you know of in history? Who would you say is the best communicator, and why do you say that about them?
People is going to hate me for what I'm going to say, and I'm going to give a context. Who were the two men more powerful in 1940 to 1945? And I want your audience to think. Gandhi and Hitler. Both of them never killed or threw a rock. Both of them convinced a population to mobilize. One of them killed not only Jew people, and I'm Jewish, so I think I have the right to say it because I'm Jewish and I lost, I would say, 95% of my roots. in Auschwitz.
Wow.
So Hitler may convince other people to work to a gas, to make other people to kidnap others. And actually, there are researchers who were listening to the confessions of some of the militaries who were with Hitler, like, why you did it? Because I was told to. So this is a lot of deeper, and I will ask you, please, before you put me cross against my name, to look on this to understand how deep it is. So Hitler never killed anyone, but he convinced nations to kill others. He not only killed Jewish people, Gitans, nomads, gay people, everybody who wasn't on his path. Gandhi mobilized a nation who was with tradition for centuries to change the way they did. So those are the best communicators. Instead to see them as a good or bad, tyrant or saint, let's pay attention how people who are so small worldwide make movement. Those are the best communicators. So instead to learn how they did good or bad, let's learn how they did it, because that's how the cult effect starts. Mason never kill anyone. He make other people to kill it. He was watching how other people killed Sharon Tate and did what they did. How that people convince others to do things that are so atrocious that can revolve your stomach. Why don't we learn from that to make good? Because again, that is a car. How you drive it is your responsibility. But we need to learn how to drive it in order to do it right. So I would say the best communicators are the ones who make movements on the bad way and a good way. We need to learn from both, because if we only read about the story who win, we're missing a huge part of the other side. And what happened, that can be repeated. And that's when, as a human being, we haven't learned anything. So grab a storybook and start reading different concept of the story and make your own. So you are not a victim to a tyrant. You're not a victim to a cult leader, and you only have your own decisions to make at the end of the day.
Yeah, very powerful, and not an answer I've gotten before. So for sure, definitely unique.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So last question for you, where can folks find you? Where can they learn more about the classes and the courses that you're putting out there, and the speaking that you do and the training that you do?
I have an agent now. Can you believe it?
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's how crazy again. You can, if you want training for your company and tailored training, you can go to humanbehaviorallab.com. This is our consulting company. And if for any reason your company decide that this is not the training, but you want to accelerate in your career, we have a second website that is our school. That's the one you enroll as humanbehaviorhackerschool.com. Either way you go into the website are related. You can Google my name and it's going to drive you. And I answer all my emails. So if you have any questions and if you have any doubts about the training or you want to know more, I'm more than open to help you to discover this new Pandora box. Only warning, when you open it, it's impossible to close it. So if you're not ready for the ride, do not take the roller coaster.
Well, Susan, this has been amazing. I think we might have to have you back on a bit down the road to get into some of those other topics, especially as I continue to learn from you. And I really appreciate your help in my journey as well.
By the way, we learn together, because as a teacher, you learn more from your students than you learn from a book. So I always grateful to have students. And one of the things that I miss about this pandemic is to have my in-person class. Because when you guys make questions, then I don't know, you oblige me to spend 2 days looking for the answer because you deserve it. So I'm really grateful to have students who question me all the time to make me become better.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, hopefully we'll get to meet in person at some point in the future.
I hope so.
But thank you so much for your time today. I thought it was a ton of value for the audience. We're on so many topics. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you very much.